Hello, I'm Jerrie Demasi. It's 4 o'clock and these are our top stories in Perth this afternoon. The clock is ticking on Trump's ultimatum while Iran and the US trade increasingly aggressive threats. Fuel panic grows across the nation as servos battle drive away thieves. Alarming data, St John's urgent message over growing violence toward paramedics. Sudden strike, thousands of ABC staff set to walk off the job for the first time in 20 years. And a US airport shut down after a plane crash on a runway. The clock is ticking on Donald Trump's threat to take down Iran's power infrastructure if it doesn't allow oil to start moving through the Strait of Hormuz. The president's deadline expires just before 8 o'clock tomorrow morning our time. Iran, however, has vowed to retaliate, promising it will respond to any attack from the US.
Well, the US president's threat to obliterate Iran's power plants if it does not open the Strait of Hormuz in 48 hours has been met with the same aggression. Iran not balking at that threat, instead vowing to retaliate, hitting energy infrastructure right across the Gulf that has any kind of ties to the US. It says it will also keep the Hormuz Strait closed to those who, quote, violate our soil. Right now, that's been the majority of ships. Only a few have passed through, some even offering to pay money to get through that critical route, with the oil price now stuck above $110 a barrel. Today, Israel's Prime Minister took a look at two sites where the sophisticated Iron Dome defences failed. Iranian ballistic missiles hitting two separate sites in the southern part of the country, very close to a nuclear research centre, injuring more than 150 people.
If you want proof that Iran endangers the entire world, the last 48 hours have given it. In the last 48 hours, Iran targeted a civilian area. They're doing that as a mass murder weapon.
Civilians are being impacted on all fronts of this war. There have been fresh US-Israeli strikes across Tehran, and in Lebanon, Israel has been ramping up its attacks on Hezbollah, blowing up critical infrastructure, including an important bridge that separates the southern part of Lebanon to the northern part. Some suggest that is a precursor to a ground invasion. Beirut, right now in the grips of a humanitarian crisis. There are more than 1 million people displaced and more than 1,000 people have been killed.
The global energy chief has warned the current shock to oil supplies is among the worst in history as the war in the Middle East continues to ravage supply. As Tim Lester reports, he had plenty to say about Australia's response to the crisis.
In Canberra and meeting with the Energy Minister and the Prime Minister, International Energy Agency Chief Executive Fateh Birol has heaped praise on Australia, both for developing renewable energy and for our capacity to export gas.
Australia can well be a rising star of the global energy economy, because you have everything here.
The energy chief visiting in the middle of a crisis he acknowledges is already far worse than the old benchmarks of destructive oil shocks.
The amount of oil we lost is equal to 2 oil price shocks in the 70s, which led the world to recession.
This as pressure builds from Parliament's crossbench for the government to impose new taxes on gas exporters as the Iran war drives a whole new demand for Australian gas.
It's not their gas. It's not the government's gas. It's not the opposition's gas. It's our gas.
Australians are sick of paying more in beer excise and more in HEXTRA payments than we get from our gas tax.
The head of the International Energy Agency says Australians deserve a fair share of energy profits, but he also offered this caution.
Energy investors are like butterflies. When they are scared, they fly away.
This as Prime Minister Albanese confirms he has spoken today with Singapore's PM Lawrence Wong, the two leaders undertaking to support the flow of fuel and gas between the two countries.
There's no reprieve at the Bowser tomorrow. Fuel prices here in Perth will remain steady at an average of $2.45 a litre. The best way to save is by conserving fuel and driving efficiently. Amelia Bruin reports.
Good afternoon. Well, with the fuel crisis well and truly deepening, I'm joined by Alex Forrest from RAC. Alex, welcome. Thank you for your time. You have some practical tips for drivers to help increase fuel efficiency on the roads.
There's a few little things that over the long term can make a big difference. Things like maintaining your tyre pressures at the correct pressure, reducing the aerodynamic load on your car can make a big difference as well. And the way you drive can definitely make a big difference to how much fuel you use, both in how hard you accelerate and in how hard you brake as well.
In terms of the fuel that people put in, you're seeing a lot of people put in more expensive fuel than they need, is that right?
It's pretty common in the market where people want to get that extra bit of go, or they believe that the fuel is going to be cleaning their engine as they drive. There's a lot of marketing around that might be overstating it a little bit, but if your car only needs a 91, run it on 91 because you can save 15, 20, 25 cents a litre. And over a year, that can make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Electric vehicles, it's obviously a big talking point at the moment. Where do you see that heading? Are more and more people going to turn to EVs given the climate that we're in?
Yeah, there's been a lot of reporting about that, and certainly it looks like the industry has been receiving a lot of inquiry about new EV purchases, but it's really also important to think about whether that money would be better placed elsewhere in your family budget. So if it's another $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000, should that be put elsewhere, like a nest egg for when other costs go up, like cost of living, interest rates go up and that sort of thing. So it's a very specific thing that people should think about, but you can also check RAC's vehicle running costs as well, and that can give people a better understanding of how much it's going to cost a certain vehicle to maintain over a 5-year ownership period.
And just finally, obviously people are worried, they're not sure where this is all going to end. From the RAC point of view, I mean, do people need to be concerned about how expensive it's going to be to drive a car into the future?
Look, it's really tough to call. You know, we don't have the solution. We haven't got any insider knowledge really about those bigger political issues. But for the time being, it's really important to make sure that you're well ahead of the costs and making sure that you're able to afford your lifestyle overall, not just running your car. Sometimes we can make a bit of a difference, and over a year we can save maybe $1,000 or $2 just in the cost of running your car.
Yeah, and that's quite a lot. Makes a big difference.
It'll make a huge difference.
Alex, thank you so much for your time. Tonight in 7 News at 6 o'clock, we have new figures about the number of fuel drive-offs that are happening across WA.
And with that oil crisis escalating, one interstate leader has ruled out rationing fuel for now. It comes as petrol station owners are scrambling to deal with people filling up and taking off without paying.
Good afternoon. The owners here of this St Mary's Metro petrol station pride themselves on being the cheapest in the area, but just like their patrons, they're being punished at the Bowser as well. Thefts here are up 50% in the past few weeks. There are so many cases exactly like this where the drivers are sitting in the car, their passengers fill up their tanks, often more than $100, and then they drive off without paying. It's happening around 2 to 3 times every day, and every time it does happen, the staff here have to fill out a form for police and attach the relevant CCTV footage. They're spending about 2 hours a day alone with these applications and can't keep up. It comes as Chris Minns reveals he has a step-by-step emergency plan if the situation deteriorates even further.
We will, of course, take emergency measures if required. We want to make sure we only do it when we absolutely have to.
Chris Minns also said fuel rationing isn't likely. The stock levels here in St Mary's, I'm told, are absolutely fine, but they've started telling people to pay before they fill up at night to stop theft.
We're going to start this system. So actually when people know, then maybe we have a less headache.
The possibility of service stations stocking E20 is also becoming more of a possibility. The NRMA says at the very least people should be using more E10. We'll have plenty more on this developing fuel crisis at 6 p.m.
We have breaking news now, and a man has been run down in a suspected hit and run at a petrol station in Armidale. This happened at the Vibe service station on Forest Road. Emergency services were called to the scene just before 1 o'clock. It's understood the victim, a service station worker aged in his 30s, was trying to intervene and stop someone allegedly stealing fuel. He's been rushed to hospital, and we'll have more details on this in our news at 6. To America now, and an Air Canada plane has crashed into a fire truck. It happened on a runway at LaGuardia Airport in New York. Images on social media show people crowded around a severely damaged jet. LaGuardia Airport, which is one of America's busiest, has been shut down. It's understood at least 2 people may be critically injured. One man has been killed and 5 others injured after a car ploughed into a tree in Sydney's west. Police are now investigating what caused that crash and if any of them were wearing seatbelts at the time.
Good afternoon. Well, Western Sydney residents here in Darrick have rushed out to a sickening scene last night after a car veered off the road, slamming directly into a tree. You could hear it coming down the road moments before impact. Inside the vehicle, 6 people, including 2 young children. One man died on impact, the rest were helped by members of the public on Stewart Road until emergency services arrived.
I went up and opened the door and the driver fell out and I could hear the kids screaming. I grabbed the kid out of the car seat. When I opened the front door, all the adults that were in the car were in the front seat.
They were yelling and screaming, there was kids crying as well. It was just a scene that's, it was pretty scary.
The children were taken to the Children's Hospital at Westmead in stable conditions. The surviving adults, 3 men and 1 female driver, suffered more serious injuries.
There was no seatbelts used except for the infant in the car seat because I don't know how they all ended up in the front seat on top of each other.
Police are now investigating exactly what happened in the lead up to the crash, including why there were 6 people in the car and a child in the front seat. It's understood they're still waiting to interview the driver and her passengers. We'll have updates on those patients' conditions in the news tonight at 6.
For the first time in 20 years, live programs on the ABC could be thrown off air when thousands of staff walk off the job. Employees are pushing for higher pay, with the ABC applying to Fair Work for help in resolving the dispute.
Well, there'll be no 7 o'clock news on Wednesday night, with thousands of staff set to walk off the job. The 24-hour strike will start at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. Now, that is going to cause the national broadcaster to look and sound a bit different. In addition to no nightly news, the Current Affairs 7:30 program is also likely to be pulled. Radio programs will sound a bit off as well, with managers stepping in to replace regular announcers. This has all come off the back of a rejection of an offer from ABC boss Hugh Marks, who tossed up a 10% pay increase over 3 years, as well as a $1,000 sign-on bonus. That was rejected by the broadcasters' union members. 60% of staff voted against that proposal. They're pushing for higher pay and more job security. The ABC argues their offer is already fair. So it seems unless a better offer emerges, the ABC will be relying on reruns.
You're watching 7's Afternoon News live from Perth. Still to come, Australia's Eurovision campaign kicks off. Delta Goodrem lights up the stage, a sneak peek ahead of the global competition. And Kyle Sandilands braces for the legal fight of his life. That's next.
As the nation missed the start of the news? You can start over on 7 Plus on selected devices, 7 News at 6, or when you start over on 7 Plus.
You're watching 7's 4 p.m. news live from Perth. Right now it's 25 degrees in the city. The autumn heat will continue over the next few days, but wet weather is expected later in the week. That forecast is coming up soon. Kyle Sandilands has launched legal action against his former employer over the termination of his $100 million contract. Court documents have been served in the federal court against ARN and Commonwealth Broadcasting Corporation. The radio titan claims he was wrongfully sacked after ARN tore up his contract following an on-air clash with co-host Jackie O. Sandilands' team argues the network has no valid grounds to end his 10-year deal because there was no serious misconduct or breach of contract. ARN disputes that and intends to defend his termination. The Governor-General, Sam Mostyn, has met with President of the European Commission in a special ceremony at Government House today. Discussions centred around strengthening Australia's ties with the European Union.
Australia and Europe have a long, storied history. We're very like-minded, we believe. We share values, the belief in the sovereignty of nations.
President von der Leyen will meet Prime Minister Anthony Albanese tomorrow. Pop star Delta Goodrem has officially kicked off her Eurovision campaign in Europe. Australia's Golden Girl performed her entry song, Eclipse, to a sea of fans in Oslo. The world-renowned music competition kicks off in Vienna later in May. Now for the top stories making headlines globally, here's what's happening around the world in 80 seconds.
We start in Malaysia, where a fireworks stall has exploded. A nearby restaurant bore the brunt of the early morning blast, with diners and staff forced to barricade themselves inside. Their plan worked, no one was injured, and emergency crews contained the blaze in just 20 minutes. In Bangladesh, Eid celebrations have turned deadly, a makeshift bridge collapsing under the weight of holiday crowds. It sparked a flurry of panic as revellers desperately swam to shore. A car has been swallowed by a landslide in Turkey, a mountain of debris burying the vehicle as it drove along a coastal highway. The 44-year-old driver escaped with just minor injuries. Heavy rainfall is to blame. Violence has erupted on the streets of Albania, protesters clashing with police. Demonstrators hurled petrol bombs at the Prime Minister's office. Police responded with force, firing water cannons and tear gas into the crowds. The unrest has been sparked by corruption allegations levelled at the country's leader. And Russia has launched a rocket to the International Space Station. The launch site had been out of action after sustaining damage during a lift-off last November. But with repairs now complete, the cargo ship is on its way. And that's your trip around the world and beyond in 80 seconds.
If you're joining us from outside of Perth, here's what's coming up in the 7 Regional Bulletin at 5:30 with Noel Brunning.
Yes, good afternoon, Jerry. After a statewide review of regional bridges, a strict 11-tonne limit is being introduced for dozens of crossings in WA. The move will come as a major blow to farmers and freighters who are already struggling with spiralling costs. They now face long detours or lost business with no alternative routes. A Goldfield chef behind one of the biggest cannabis operations to be uncovered in WA has been sentenced to 7 years behind bars. 41-year-old Bing Shia had been planning a large-scale hydroponic operation in Cokeby in the Wheatbelt. And Bunbury's Johnny Jukebox has done all he can to make it through to the next round of the Australian Idol. The 17-year-old has a nervous wait until tomorrow night's results show to find out if he's made it through to the top 8 of the competition.
Ryan Daniels joins us now. Ryan, you've had a particular skip in your step today. Any reason for that?
Well, it's a rare occurrence, Jerry. Both our teams won on the same weekend. 3 years it's been since that happened. Incredible. A young Eagle has been named a rising star after their win. Details next. Plus, Bobby Hill back at the Pies with a new mentor. And WA's Summer of Cricket, where and when you can see the Aussies in action.
7 News, connecting you.
Eagles coach Andrew McQualter reserved special praise for one of his youngest players after last night's stunning come-from-behind win over North Melbourne. Number 4 draft pick Cooper Duff tightly kicked 2 goals and had 12 disposals and obviously impressed the coach.
Oh, dribbles it like a basketballer. He did that for Australia. Sends it goalward. And what a finish from the young man.
Yeah, thought I saw Gak out running across our forward 50 there at one stage with Cooper. He was incredible, the speed that he had. I just thought that he had really big moments in the game. He kicked a couple of important goals. He stood up, took a contested mark and finished the goal. I thought was important. And he's a young man, really driven to be a great player. He's getting some great teachings from Jake Waterman and Harry Taylor, our aerial coach, and he's going to be a pretty special player.
Fellow young big man Job Shanahan was also impressive and claimed this week's AFL Rising Star nomination. And the match review officer has cleared North's Charlie Comben of a striking charge against Harley Reid. Collingwood says Bobby Hill is a long way off returning to the playing field after taking months off with personal leave. The Premiership hero has turned to Eddie Betts to mentor him on his road back.
With champion forward Eddie Betts on board as a mentor, Bobby Hill back on track at Pies HQ after 3 months of personal leave. Now for a sustained block to build fitness.
He's still got a long way to go, Mitch. He's done a bit of training, but he's really just at the start line. One thing we probably should anticipate that it may not be linear.
The 26-year-old likely to need at least a month before he's considered for a VFL return, but Darcy Moore and Jeremy Howe train fully, both fit to face GWS Friday night. More pain at the Bombers, Dyson Sharp with an ankle injury, Mason Redman needing surgery and out for more than 4 weeks to repair a torn meniscus. No team has conceded more points in an opening fortnight this decade. Brad Scott admits some players lack the desire to defend.
I think it's part of it, yeah. Because it'd be ridiculous for me to say that's not the case. We're not hard-nosed enough in defence, full stop.
Last 2 weeks, pretty crap to be honest, on the field. Still have to keep vibes up around the club for sure, so it's a long season, stuff can change.
Tigers captain Toby Nankervis to miss up to 2 months with his hamstring, Tom Lynch 5 weeks. While Tom Liberatore will be sidelined after the Bulldogs bye, straining his hamstring in the third quarter against Adelaide, remarkably playing on for a game-high 8 final quarter disposals. Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
Much needed reinforcements are on the way for the Giants ahead of Friday night's clash with Collingwood at Marvel Stadium. Aaron Cadman, Toby Bedford and Brent Daniels are pushing to return from injury. Coming off back-to-back losses, the Giants are desperate for Cadman to bring the goals with him upon his return to the side.
I think over the next few weeks, we're going to get a few boys back, which is really going to help. But I hope he's playing because we really need him up front.
Defender Jack Buckley won't play against the Pies due to concussion. Cricket Australia has released the full schedule for the upcoming season and it's hectic for Pat Cummins' test team. A 2-match series against Bangladesh in August marks the start of an intense run of tests, including a South African tour, a home series against New Zealand, then tours of India and England from early December to mid-March. The Aussies will play 10 tests across 14 weeks.
I think it will highlight the importance of high-quality planning, management of players, players understanding what they prioritise, and that won't please everybody, but that's part of the challenge of modern-day cricket.
England will return to Optus Stadium for a one-dayer in November before the first test match of the summer against New Zealand in the West Test in December. This is the strip the Socceroos will wear at the World Cup in North America beginning in June. Friday night's friendly against Cameroon at Accor Stadium is crucial preparation for the side.
Every camp is important, every camp is special. You just got to enjoy it. Enjoy every moment you get, if it's your first, your 5th, your 100th cap.
After Cameroon, the Socceroos play Curaçao at Amy Park on Tuesday week. That's all from me for now. Jerry, plenty more sport at 6.
Thanks, Ryan. We'll see you then. Well, Hawaii has been lashed by severe storms, causing some of the worst flooding the island has faced in more than 20 years. Homes have been destroyed and hundreds of people evacuated, with authorities saying the damage could cost up to $1 billion.
Family home destroyed in seconds as Hawaii is battered by its worst flooding in more than 20 years. Hundreds have been rescued, thousands have been evacuated, and one of the largest dams on the island of Oahu is at risk of failure. Nobody is reported to have died, but there is major damage to homes, schools, airports and a hospital.
This is going to have a very serious consequence for us as a state, though we have support. We are now beginning to contemplate the reality that this storm could cost over $1 billion of damage.
In the chaos, residents are taking care of each other.
We're going to go get her cats. Come. Everyone's worked together. The National Guard has been out there. Our military, active military duty has been there for us. And citizens everywhere have been taking care of each other. That's what you do in Hawaii. That is what we are as an ohana. That's why people have not died.
But relentless rain has turned streets into rivers and left cars underwater. Many are wondering when they'll return home and what they'll be returning to. Emma Cropper, 7 News.
Still to come on 7 News, shocking violence against our health workers. The urgent plea from St John WA as paramedics face aggression and hostility. And travel chaos in the US, ICE border agents deployed to airports nationwide. That's next. Hello, you're watching 7's Afternoon News live from Perth. Here are the top stories. The war in the Middle East is continuing to cause problems for Australia's economy. The price of oil has soared, service stations are increasingly running dry, and share prices are falling as investors panic. St John WA workers have reported a rise in violent and aggressive situations. An increasing number of paramedics are having to call for help on the job, risking their own lives as they try to save others. There's travel chaos unfolding in the US today, with many major airports severely understaffed. ICE border agents have now been deployed across America's airports to help relieve the hours-long queues for security screening. And the fallout from South Australia's state election after a landslide Labor victory, One Nation officially winning its first ever seat in the lower house outside of Queensland. It was another warm autumn day, mostly sunny with a top of 30, but some rain and wind is forecast ahead. I'll have your full weather details a little later this hour. To our top story now, and the war in the Middle East is causing havoc for Australia. The price of oil is at $112 a barrel, with petrol panic buying leaving some service stations across the country dry, while others grapple with a surge in fuel thefts. The wider economy is feeling it too. Australia's stocks fell as investors' anxieties hit our commodity-rich market. The ASX has lost $320 billion since the beginning of the conflict. In good news, Anthony Albanese has signed a joint statement with Singapore's Prime Minister to ensure energy security. Australia is also in talks with Korea, Japan and China. And the fuel crisis is causing a nationwide crime spike. Returning to our breaking news now, a man has been rushed to hospital after a hit and run at a service station in Armidale. Live now to Cassidy Moscone. Cass, what happened?
Jerry, well, police have confirmed to us that the person hit was a worker at this Vibe service station who was trying to stop a fuel drive-off. They say a male driving a dark-coloured sedan filled up and then attempted to leave without paying. That's when witnesses say the worker jumped onto the bonnet of the car to try and stop him, but it didn't work. They tell us he was thrown to the ground and then hit by the vehicle that sped off. This was just before 1 p.m. on Forest Road. St John Ambulance confirmed they treated the man for a number of injuries, including to his face. It was neighbours first on scene, though, who rushed to his aid.
He was out of it, then it would have been, I guess, a minute or two. He started to regain consciousness, try to move, but the woman who was the nurse was really good. She kept reassuring him, "You've been in an accident, we're here."
The worker is right now being assessed in the emergency department of Royal Perth Hospital. As for the driver and that car, they are yet to be found. Jerry will have more information on this story, and Hunt in the news at 6.
Cassidy, thank you. New data has revealed an increasing number of WA paramedics are dealing with violent and aggressive situations. Rebecca Petroska has the details.
Good afternoon. Well, paramedics are there when we need them the most, providing care and saving lives, but too often they're having to risk their own. An increasing number of paramedics are having to call for help on the job. This incident in Kalgoorlie last year, just one of many. Our frontline staff trapped inside an ambulance while a naked man goes on a rampage. A day on the job Rebecca Thompson will never forget.
It was the most traumatic moment in my life.
Violent and aggressive incidents like this are on the rise. There were 442 last year, almost 12% more than the year before. Of those, 35 incidents left staff injured. More than 1 in 3 required a code black, with police called to help.
We're seeing instances where people are being spat at, being bitten, being chased down the street.
We can't do our job. We can't help you. You know, if we are hurt, if we are injured.
The holiday period, often worse for staff. 46 incidents reported in December alone. It's not just physical. Staff behind the phones also copping threats and verbal abuse.
They have families to go home to. They deserve to go home in the manner in which they came to work in one piece, to go home and look after and support their families, as well as supporting their community when they're at work.
We'll have more on this story in the news at 6.
Perth's rental market remains incredibly tough with a vacancy rate of just 2.2%. Today 7 News can bring you the story of a Perth family facing that challenge like many others after a burst pipe flooded their Yokine rental. James Carmody has the details.
Good afternoon. Just last week, Abby Day and her 3 sons were happily living in this Yokine rental. But that all changed on Thursday.
I've come through this way. The entire bedroom has been flooded up to, my feet are completely covered. I've walked into my wardrobe and the entire ceiling has come down. My drawers were completely full of water. I was wringing, they're still wet now.
Arriving home to the sound of running water, Abby found a pipe had burst in her roof, collapsing ceilings and flooding everything.
There were lights hanging from the roof, the water was still spraying. I honestly didn't know what to do at that point. But this is actually 3 days post-incident. All of this was flooded actually up into the back door. So there was a fair bit of water. So coming through here, this is my linen cupboard. This box here is where all my memories were kept of my children and
photographs.
Yeah, just, that box of memories that you keep, and that was the most heartbreaking.
The sheer volume of water is what's left her shocked and has made the damage so significant.
This vase has been in this linen cupboard stored away for quite some time now. I haven't moved it, but that's how much water it's collected, even under these shelving units here.
Worst hit was her children's room, their clothes, toys, beds and more destroyed. Unfortunately, Abby didn't have contents insurance.
I should have, I know that, but as a single mum, there's certain things that you just can't afford. But just basics, socks, undies, clothes, their beds. I need to replace their beds, mattresses, pillows, blankets. There's so much that needs to be replaced, just essentials,
Harder still, the level of damage has meant the lease has had to be terminated, a convention supposed to be in the best interest of tenant and landlord. But now the family need to find a new rental in an incredibly tough market.
So I will continue to apply for homes and hope that something comes up for me and the kids.
We'll bring you the full story in 7 News at 6.
An orthodontist accused of choking an 11-year-old boy at a junior soccer match in Mindarie has had his charges dropped after apologising to the child. Stephen Nam was due to fight the allegation at trial today, but prosecutors revealed the boy's family accepted his apology.
Do you regret what happened? Is there anything you want to say to the little boy and his family?
Football West have released a statement in relation to the case, promising to support both clubs and reminding spectators about positive sideline behaviour. If you're travelling to the United States, be prepared to spend hours in airport queues. Federal funding stoush has left airports across the country critically understaffed. Donald Trump has now ordered ICE agents to make up the numbers.
It's spring break here in the United States, one of the busiest times of the year for airports. But this year, they're under more pressure than normal. At some, wait times just to go through security checkpoints are hours long. Queues at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, for example, stretch from one end of the terminal to the other.
It's just insane. I've never seen anything like this.
Frustration and anxiety due to a severe lack of security screening staff. Hundreds have either quit or just stopped turning up to work after going without pay for weeks due to a funding fight in Congress.
They're going to take other jobs to put food on the table and pay the rent, so I do think it's going to get much worse.
For the past 5 weeks, Democrats have refused to pass a bill to fund the Department of Homeland Security, which includes the Transportation Security Administration and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, hoping to force Republicans to agree to new reforms to ICE.
They're targeting American citizens and law-abiding immigrant families, and of course that needs to end.
With no sign of an end to the budget impasse, Donald Trump has now ordered ICE agents to deploy to America's airports from tomorrow.
This is about going to helping TSA do their mission and get the American public through that airport as quick as they can.
A move that's prompted mixed reactions.
If it helps the wait times diminish, I'm not worried about ICE.
They kind of operate by their own rules, and no one really knows what to expect. So even citizens themselves are not really sure what will set them off.
The Trump administration says it's still working out exactly what tasks the ICE agents will be used for.
Vote counting is continuing in South Australia, where One Nation now has one lower house seat, its first ever outside Queensland. Meanwhile, Labor Premier Peter Malinauskas is back on the job after his landslide victory.
Peter Malinauskas was on a mission today. He was also on the tools with up-and-coming tradies at Tonsley. He knows they're the beating heart of the state's future prosperity, as more skilled tradespeople are needed for the AUKUS project and our growing housing demands. But more tradies need to be trained. He's promised 3 new technical colleges in Gawler, Martin and Murray Bridge.
First one has to be open 2028. Which means no time to muck around.
Build them and they will come, according to those at the front line.
Working outside with my hands, doing something that I actually enjoy. And I just know that's what I want to do every day.
Being here helps set up our future as well much better, and it's a lot more relaxed and easier to have that.
My gut feel is it continues to grow and there's going to be more demand.
The Premier is keeping a watchful eye on the vote counting, with One Nation lurking as a growing force.
Where's Pauline Hanson today? Does anyone know?
Complexities with preference counting will give One Nation at least 1 and maybe 3 lower house seats. The Premier's steely advice for his re-elected MPs and his new ones.
I demand discipline. And that is a culture that is enforced at every level within the party.
A more forceful Peter Malinauskas 2.0 is already evident.
After the break, the Beckhams' highly publicised drama takes a twist. Could the famous family be getting another documentary? That's next.
7 News, connecting you.
New research has found the drinking habits of parents influence their children at 2 key stages of life. The 23-year study of almost 7,000 families show parents' alcohol consumption matters most for teenagers aged 15 to 17 and again in their late 20s to 30s when they become parents themselves. Researchers also found daughters take on their mother's drinking habits and sons typically resemble their fathers. The Beckham family drama could be moving from real life to our screens. Brooklyn Beckham and his wife Nicola Peltz have been approached about filming a tell-all series. It's understood the couple's management teams are in talks with production heads at TV network Hulu. If it goes ahead, they would be in direct competition with Netflix, which already has featured documentaries about David and Victoria. The share market has opened the week in the red, with renewed US-Iran tensions weighing on investor confidence. James Towell from ING Bank has the latest.
Good afternoon. The local share market has extended its losing run to start the week, falling for a 3rd straight session, with further escalation in US-Iran tensions, pushing the ASX 200 towards correction territory. That's a 10% fall from its most recent high. The ASX 200 index has now fallen just over 9% since the conflict in the Middle East began a little over 3 weeks ago. Today finishing lower by about 63 points, or 0.75%, but at one stage was down by as much as 2% at its worst levels this morning. Miners were the major drag yet again, with gold stocks hit hardest. The price of the precious metal slipped around 11% over the past week. It was the worst weekly performance in around 40 years, and that led to local producers tumbling as much as 9% today. Meanwhile, energy stocks moved higher as the price of Brent crude continues to hold above $110 a barrel. Retailers were some of the other big winners for the day. The Aussie dollar, though, was a loser, is now back below 70 US cents.
Perth 6 p.m. news is coming up with Tim McMillan. Tim, what's on the program?
Hi there, Jerry. More on the ever-evolving fuel crisis. A petrol station worker in Armidale has allegedly been struck by a driver who fled without paying. It comes as petrol anxieties cause a spike in crime nationwide. In the Middle East, Iran is refusing to back down after Donald Trump issued his 48-hour ultimatum. Iran will need to reopen the vital Strait of Hormuz shipping route by tomorrow morning our time, or the US has vowed to obliterate its energy grid. Also tonight, with a number of vacant rentals in Perth near historic lows, hear the story of one Perth family thrust back into the market after a burst water pipe. James Carmody has that exclusive report at 6. Plus, violence against WA health workers. St John's sends an urgent message to the public as paramedics face increasingly hostile and violent situations. And we'll have the latest details from New York after a passenger jet crashed on a runway. Those stories and more tonight at 6. Jerry?
Thanks, Tim. We'll see you then. The King's baton relay ahead of the Glasgow Commonwealth Games stopped off in Townsville today on its way to meet the Governor-General in Sydney tomorrow. It was an opportunity to highlight King Charles's passion for the environment with a beach clean-up.
He was an environmentalist when it wasn't popular. And the British press were really nasty to him and said what an idiot he was because loving trees and things. And now everyone sort of knows he was right.
The baton relay winds up in Launceston when 7-time Commonwealth Games gold medalist Ariane Titmus takes it for a visit to her childhood pool. The autumn warmth is set to cool with some wet weather expected later this week. I'll have that forecast for you right after the break.
7 News, connecting you.
Now, Fuel Watch. Perth's petrol prices brought to you by Fuel Watch and 7 News.
Checking the weather now, we've had another warm day, reaching a top of 30 in the city. Looking at the national forecast, showers and a top of 29 for Melbourne and Brisbane, mostly sunny in Adelaide and Canberra and rain in Hobart. Back to Perth, we'll get down to 15 tonight. Tomorrow sunny and 30, Wednesday similar, top of 31. Thursday mostly sunny and 31. Friday some showers and a top of 27. Saturday 25, expect some light wind and more rain, and Sunday that wind will pick up even more, top of 23 and some rain possible, and showers for next Monday. That's Perth's 4 p.m. news. I'm Jerrie Demasi. Join us for 7 News at 6. The Chase Australia is next.